Shame, Tapes and Gremlins is a phrase that Brené Brown introduces in her books and in her TED Talk. She uses this metaphor of shame gremlins. According to Brené Brown, if I am in the act of trying to commit to something, to live courageously, to engage in wholehearted living, it's quite likely that these shame gremlins are going to try to come up with reasons why I ought not to do that, or why I can't do that. So the first shame tape that these gremlins will play is, you can't do this. Simon, you can't write a book, you can't create a new record, you can't do this. And then if the person nevertheless steps forward, commits to creativity, engages in the act, then the shame gremlins will play a different tape, and this tape will say, who do you think you are? We see you trying to do this thing. Who do you think you are?
What's wrong with you? And we've compiled a list, and it's full of stupid problems that you really should have fixed. Someday we'll give up on you too, 'cause we're a bunch of dicks. Yes, I know.
I think we're all familiar with these voices of self-doubt. Brené Brown refers to them as these shame gremlins. But they come up in lots of other books on creativity as well. In the 2021 interview that Sarah and I conducted, she recommended the book Bird by Bird. And in Bird by Bird, Anne Lamott similarly invites us to imagine these voices of self-doubt that tell us that we can't, in this case, write. She likewise talks about these voices that could impede me from sitting down and doing the work. And Anne Lamott encourages us to imagine that they are little characters, and to imagine taking the character that's expressing these ideas, who do you think you are, you can't do this, and to imagine putting them into a jar and shutting the jar. You could turn the volume up so you can maximize what they're saying, and then you could visualize yourself turning that volume down. She jokes about the idea of suffocating these voices in the jar as well.
And says we should pick you up, drop you in a jar, then turn the volume way up. FMK fucked, it sounds so jarring. Then turn the volume way down. That makes me frown. I know, little gremlins, you think we need you around. What are we gonna do?
My song, Shame, Tapes and Gremlins, takes as a given that such voices exist, and that of course they impede our attempts to engage in living wholeheartedly. But the song invites the listener to go on an experiment where, instead of trying to ignore these shame gremlin voices, or to drown them out, or essentially to treat them as bad and as unhelpful and purely the nemesis of our inner child, instead of treating them like that, the song invites the listener to befriend the gremlins, to figure out why they are acting like they are.
Ask them if they think they're old enough to drive the car.
So some lyrics from my Shame Tapes song include, they figured out what's wrong with us, the doc said shame's to blame. They tried to fix it, they formed lists, notice how the shame persists. I want to meet the gremlins and ask them why these tapes are playing. So that really encapsulates what this song of mine, Shame, Tapes and Gremlins, is doing. Rather than treating these gremlins as a problem and trying to come up with ways of not attending to what they're saying, there's this desire to meet these troublesome inner parts of us. This is informed by internal family systems and the idea that there are no bad parts. This is a recent book by Richard Swartz. Alanis Morissette, I think, not coincidentally a musician, writes the introduction. So the premise there is that there are no bad parts, even the inner critic that seems to have nothing helpful to do apart from tell us not to be creative. Even the shame tape, they think that they're being helpful. They think that they're trying to stop me from embarrassing myself, for example, by wearing a woman's bathrobe and doing a silly dance, as the character Cephas said, that goes with the hum songs. These shame gremlins feel that they're trying to protect me. So the Shame Tapes and Gremlins song says, "I'm curious why you do the things you do to me. I want to know you better, so I'm pulling up a seat."
I wanna know you better, so I'm pulling up a seat.
The whole verse of the song says, "Anne says we should pick you up, drop you in a jar." This is referencing the advice in Bird by Bird. "Then turn the volume way up. FMK fucked, it sounds so jarring. Then turn the volume way down. That makes you frown, I know, little gremlins. You think we need you around. What are we going to do with you?" So there's this kind of friendly, humorful way of engaging with, kind of playing with these gremlins, taking away some of the power of their scariness by not treating them as monsters.
Still our shame tapes and gremlins seem to persist. Victor says, and I agree, it's best not to resist. That takes the wind out of their sails. Now they're looking to you for a cue, 'cause they don't have a clue what to do.
There's a reference to Viktor Frankl, man's search for meaning, as well, in the next verse. Still our shame tapes and gremlins seem to persist. Viktor Frankl, says, and I agree, it's best not to resist. So I am Dr. Calder. I agree with Viktor. Logotherapy is the name of the therapy that Viktor Frankl developed. Logotherapy bases its technique called paradoxical intention on the twofold fact that fear brings about that which one is afraid of, and that hyper-intention makes impossible what one wishes. Viktor Frankl recommends replacing fear with a paradoxical wish. In this instance, in the Shame Tapes and Gremlins song, replacing the fear of these gremlins, the fear that I will be held back by these monsters that are inside me, replacing that with a wish to get to know the gremlins and to befriend them. The Shame Tapes and Gremlins song is following the lead of Viktor Frankl here in suggesting it's best not to resist these gremlins. It's best to listen, to engage, and to boldly, lovingly bring light and love to the situation. Such a procedure, Viktor Frankl claims, must make use of the specifically human capacity for self-detachment inherent in a sense of humor. Humor and play are really crucial in my book, Her Hummingbird Heart, and in the record Hum. This refers to a component of Viktor Frankl's theory on meaning making. It's kind of funny, that can stay, I think.